reviews on Goodreads, what I think of the author and the writing style, and yeah, we'll go from there. This is going to be our first book. Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind. So I've always bought new books. Don't ask me why. I always like the look of, nice, fresh, crisp book. But as I've gotten older, I've enjoyed buying more second-hand books, pre-loved, pre-owned. This being one of them. You can see the spine is really worn. But I like that. It's been around the bush a few times. Okay, so a few things about this novel. It is an epic fantasy. It's huge. I honestly don't know how long the series goes for. I think it's 11 or 12 books, but then I read that it's 15, and then I read that it's 20 because there's prequels, and then Terry Goodkind essentially kept adding on. So I think it's 11 to 12 books long, but don't quote me on that, please look it up. On Goodreads it got 4.12. It's what I'm currently reading at the moment. You can see the bookmarks in there. It's about a guy called Richard. Not the most fantasy name, but Richard. He is, well, I'll tell you what he is, even though I don't think they allude to it on the back. He's a seeker. Actually, like I did last time, let's read the blurb and then we'll go from there. Since the sundering of the land into 3 disparate nations, Westland has remained resolutely free of the taint of sorcery, leaving its people to lead their lives unmolested by magic. Until, that is, the discovery of torn and twisted corpse of Richard Cypher's father marks the beginning of the fulfillment of an age-old prophecy. Now the time has come to accept that magic, in all its myriad forms, is inherent in the land and its people, that it cannot be ignored if the people are to survive. Only Richard has the power to confront the evil that is about to break through its underworld boundaries, for his is a unique inheritance that provides him the seeker, that proves him the seeker, the rightful wielder of the sword of truth. Okay, so they do say that he's the seeker. There's more on the blurb, but I won't go on. Basically, so far of what I've learned, the land is broken up into 3 sections. There's the non-magical section, where a boundary basically blocks them off from the rest of the magic. And then there was the Midlands, or there is the Midlands and another section. Now the Midlands is good people that have magic in their lives. There's the non-magical area where Richard's from. And then there's the 3rd area where the bad guy Darken Rule is from. Richard's goal as the Seeker, along with this wizard called Zed, and what's her name? And then Kalan, this girl who is a confessor. She has magical powers where she can take people's confession to find out if they're guilty or not, but it basically destroys them and makes them her slave. But she is a good person. Same with Richard and same with Zed. It's epic fantasy. There's magic. There's dragons, although there's only been a small sighting of a dragon so far. There's swords. Richard has the sword of truth and he becomes like a badass sword fighter with it. And yeah, there's lots of different creatures and stuff, but I haven't come into contact with too many of them yet. What I'm enjoying about it is it's got good world building. The characters are fun. They're a little bit not naive, but it's like predictable in parts. It's kind of like a fairy tale where things are happening where you'd love it to almost go another way. Like it's too obvious. The obvious is happening a bit, but I'm enjoying it. Fun thing is, I originally read book 8 or 7, not knowing it was interesting to understand the characters and what was going on. And then when I finally finished it, I was like, oh, that was a pretty good book. I went to get the next one and found out I read the wrong one. So I put it down for like 15 years and have come back to it. But look it up on Goodreads, 4.12. It's pretty good. Where's its first rule? Terry Goodkind. If you like The Wheel of Time and other epic fantasies like Game of Thrones, that could be for you. Next we have Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan. Now, I don't have too much in my brain of what happened in this book. I read it, I enjoyed it. I read his next series. But yeah, as I say, I'm not great at remembering what happens. I'll read the blurb and then I'll tell you what I really liked about this from what I remember. It's a bloody business overthrowing a king, but amid the chaos, a whispered rumour is spreading. A rumour of a broken promise, omens of death, and the gods returning to walk the earth. Surely nobody really believes those old legends. Perhaps they should. Okay, what's really cool about this book? I've never encountered it in another book before, but in this, gunpowder gives them magical powers, gives them extra speed, strength, accuracy, all of that. So to get those powers, they consume gunpowder, they eat it, they swallow it, and only a few can do it, and it gives them these powers. They can also, so I say they, I'll tell you who. Tennille, he is the main character. He is a, what do they call it? A powder mage, that's right, they're called powder mages. And they, can consume gunpowder, which is, to me, is so weird, but so wonderful, something unique. They can also ignite it from far away, so they could be like 200 meters away on the battlefield or more, and they can ignite any gunpowder. They can feel that it's there and ignite it, which is super different. The whole premise of this is that the army, if I remember correctly, is kind of broken in two, and there's the castaways, but they're fighting for good, and there's a god that turns up, who's literally got like the most powerful being ever, and then Tennille has to fight him, and yeah, it's a trilogy. It's not like the other series with heaps of books. But look, just look it up on Goodreads. It gets 4.14. I don't know. I liked it. Brian McClellan. I don't have too much to say. Just that it's pretty unique with the way it's gone about the whole powder mage thing. I read this maybe 8 years ago. It's been a while. So apologies for not remembering everything. That's why I'm like, these are suggestions. There's only so much I remember. See how new it looks. I've read it once. It looks brand new. So the next one, let's give you this one. Get focus. So this is called Iron by Miles Cameron. This is Miles Cameron's second series. His first series goes for about 4 or 5 books. I really enjoyed it. There were dragons and such, but I felt like in this series he's really grown as a writer. You connect more to his characters. It really clicks. The other one, I suggested his other series. I can't remember the name to my friend, and he wasn't a fan, but he read this and agreed he loved it. Iron can be forged into steel, and only steel will survive what is to come. Arantha is a student. He worries about his grades, his work, his parents, and about going home for the holidays, until one evening his entire life changed, altering his expectations, his goals, and his fears along with it. In a world where assumptions are collapsing and old comforts are being lost, Aranthur is looking for answers. Only whatever he does, he seems to be the centre of a web of intrigue which is growing ever more dangerous. A powerful story about beginnings, coming of age, and the way choosing to take one step towards violence can lead to a slippery and dangerous slope. This is an accomplished new fantasy series driven by strong characters and fast-paced action. So this got 4.05 on Goodreads. I think anything above 4 is worth looking into at the least. Basically, what I like about this book, it's pretty skinny. It's 400 pages long, so it's a lot more approachable to some fantasy series. As the back said, it's really character driven. Aranthur is... So he starts young and goes through the school system. He starts quite poor. He is learning alchemy, how to be a mage. Although they don't talk about the magic too much at the start. He becomes a leather worker. That's how he kind of earns money. But I swear he's also into fencing and becomes an accomplished sword fighter as well, or fencer. So a lot of things happen to him, and he becomes quite powerful, I would say, relatively quickly. It's kind of one of those things where it's like he starts from the bottom, all of a sudden he's like the hero. But it works. I think I said in my last video, I love when people are in their schooling phase and kind of level up. It's really good. There's some other characters in this. I wonder if I wrote down their names. No, I didn't. Actually, no. I'm lying. I'm pretty sure it just follows him the whole way, which is cool. Because you're never wondering like, oh, I just want to get back to that character. It follows around for the whole time, if I remember correctly. I used to work at a bookshop in London, and I regret it at the time, but there was a person that I was trying to talk into buying this, and they weren't going to buy it, and I ran after them to pay for the book, to just give it to them. This random, I wasn't trying to hit on them, but my boss ended up chatting to me, and then I missed them. But I think random acts of kindness are great, so if you ever see someone and you think, I want to buy them that book, just do it. I've done it before in a bookshop, when I was travelling, and just gave it to a stranger and walked away and never spoke to them again. I think random acts of kindness are beautiful. But look up Cold Iron. It's good fun. And on the front it says, utterly, utterly brilliant by John Gwynne. Well, that was his review, and I reviewed John Gwynne last time. Incredible, incredible author. Love all his series, they just keep getting better. So if he says it's good, it's worth looking up. Cold Iron, Miles Cameron. Okay, maybe I have something else I can add to this next one other than saying to read it. Shadow Prowler. I love this cover, by the way. Shadow Prowler by Alexei Piaf. So I've read this twice. It's a Russian author. It's been adapted to English. I've read online that the adaptation is not as good as the original Russian writing, that it doesn't fully translate across, and that some of the characters' names were not kept as their original, and they did an injustice with that. This gets 3.98 on Goodreads, 0.02 off of getting to 4, but I still recommend it. After centuries of calm, the Nameless One is stirring. An army is gathering. Thousands of fell creatures joining forces from all across the desolate lands, united for the first time in history under one black banner. By the spring, or perhaps sooner, the Nameless One and his forces will be at the walls of the great city of Avendoom, unless Shadow Harold, Master Thief, can stop them. And then they just say it's epic fantasy at its best, blah 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 blah. What else do they say? Bound by oath to fulfill his commission, even if he dies trying, Harold is accompanied by an elfin princess and her escort, 10 wild hearts, the most dangerous fighters in the world, and by the king's court jester, who may be more than he seems, or less. So this was Alexei Bayhov's, or however you say his name, first series. Shadow Harold is the main character. It follows him the whole way. He is a thief. He is one of those guys that feels like every wrong thing happens to him, and it's pretty funny the way he talks to you as the reader and to himself. It's, I would say that traditional fantasy where it has elves and dwarves and goblins and it encompasses all those fantastical creatures. His mission is to recover I think it's called the Rainbow Horn, and that's by going on this epic quest to get to this dungeon that's many levels, and only he can access the dungeon because he has the map and the skills to get through it. That's why he's hired. And he basically, the way he gets hired is he gets caught, I believe, stealing or some such, and then they force him off on this quest. It's kind of like, well, it's not like Game of Thrones, but in the way that George R. R. Martin writes, where he kills characters off, you're gonna lose some favourites in this. It's sad, but that happens on these epic quests. I would recommend this for anyone that they don't want anything that's too different. It's very classical. There's a bad guy, literally called the Nameless One. Band of heroes band together to go and save the world on an epic quest, but it's just fun. There's some good comedy. It's nice and dark, and the fact I've read it twice should be reason enough to look it up online. Shadow Prowler. The next one will be a lot more well known, and some of you might have seen it already. Sorry, you might have read it already, but also seen it on bookshelves. Pt.2, The Painted Man. So this is a quintet. I think it should be 5 books. Of course, this is the first one. It doesn't have them all. I'm confident it's 5 books. It revolves around multiple characters. The main one being Arlen Bales. Well, he's the painted man, and then there's other ones, including Roger, who's a musician, Roger Halfgrim, and Leisha, what's her name? Leisha Paper. She's a herbalist. So this one gets 4.25 on Goodreads. Solid rating. There's a lot of action. It starts off with, as usual, I'll read the back first. As darkness falls, the demons rise. For hundreds of years, these creatures have terrorized the night, slowly culling the human population. It was not always this way. Men and women did not always cower behind protective magical wards and hoped to see the dawn. Once, they battled the demons on equal terms, but those days and skills are gone. Arlen Bales lives with his parents on their isolated farmstead until a demon attack shatters their world. He learns a savage lesson that day that people, as well as magic, can let you down. Rejecting the fear that kills as efficiently as the creatures, Arlen risks another path in order to offer humanity a last, fleeting chance of survival. So in this, as it says, the demons are the bad guys. The demons come out at night. They come out of the ground. And if their homes aren't watered, the demons can get them and attack them. The demons come in different forms. There's rock demons, wind demons, all sorts. And they describe them well. One's based off on dogs, small, they're huge. The rock demons can be like 15 feet tall. And so no one ever travels at night. Except Arlen starts to. After something happens with his parents, he becomes a messenger. And so he's gallivanting all around the country at a very young age. And in order to survive, you can, if you don't have a building or somewhere to tie it in for the night that's watered, you can draw wards on the ground and create essentially a force field that keeps the demons out. And as he gets older, so this book sees him grow up from a child through the years. He goes from messenger to other things and becomes a warrior. It's really good. It's really, really worth looking into if you like a lot of action, some cool characters, and yeah, the demons are a little bit different. Look it up. Some people got a bit bored of this as the series went on. I did in a way, but I still got through it and enjoyed it, so 4.25 on Goodreads. Okay, I'm gonna finish with one more book. I read this maybe 15 years ago, 16 years ago, a long time. I'm trying to think how old I am. It's Sasha by Joel Shepherd. So this book is a quartet, there's 4. The main character is Sasha. She is a princess and a badass warrior. There's some other characters, I think it follows 2 or 3, if I remember correctly. It's gonna be hard to find. I don't really see this on shelves ever. No. It's an Australian author, so it might be tough to find. This gets 3.89 on Goodreads, so that's not top tier, but it's not terrible. So basically, Sasha gives up her title as a princess to train as a warrior. What I remember about this is there's these people, don't quote me on it, I can't remember if they're elves or if they're like elves, where their sword style is very flowy. They flow from one form to the other. It's a beautiful style, and they are the best swords, men and women in the world. And then there's like the standard hack and slash choppy style of the humans or the other race. What's unique about Sasha is she's trained in both forms, and I don't want to give too much away, but she basically merges one form into the other, and it makes her this absolute warrior goddess. There's another guy in this that's, I think, a love interest. God, I cannot remember anything. And he's a master bowman. And I remember them having a really cool relationship, and it worked pretty well. And he was a fun character. And it may follow him in parts. Oh, I just opened a page and I'm wondering if his name's Darren. He just happens to be on that. But yeah, I don't have much to say. Just as a random book that not many people have heard of, look up Sasha by Joel Shepherd. I'm gonna have to start doing these videos right after I finish a book so I actually remember stuff. My bookshelves are adorned with hundreds and hundreds of books, and my memory is not adorned with hundreds and hundreds of memories of them. If you have a favourite fantasy series, or even if you're not a fantasy fan, but you love reading, put in the comments your favourite series or the last book you read. Something that I should read maybe. I'd love to know. I'm always looking for new suggestions. I can't get enough of new suggestions. And you'll see that for a book that's 16 years old or whatever, looks brand new. Obsessed. I could keep going, I've got one more book here, but actually I'm just going to throw it up, but I'm going to talk about it next time. I'll just give you a little glimpse. The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. Very much like Brandon Sanderson, Robert Jordan, epic fantasy, so good. Really cool cover as well, but I'm not going to talk about that I can talk about next time. It's a trilogy though, you can look it up, it's amazing. Other than that, that is all for today. I love talking about books, even though I don't remember everything. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a suggestion out of this. Or maybe it's just sparked your interest to read again. Maybe it's been a minute since you've read. And yeah, this gives you something to work with. Have an amazing